From the News Channel 5 Network, this is SportsLine.
Hey there, SportsLine on your television. Steve Lehman here with you. Glad you are here with us on this Monday night on News Channel 5 Plus. Phone line's going to be open much of the night tonight. 737-7767 is the number. Also going to get to John's exclusive sit-down interview with Michael Griffin, the longest tenured Titan. Now 9 seasons in, age 30. He understands time is running out, and it's time to get some stuff done with this Titans team, and he's trying to take on more of a leadership role. He really did last year in Ken Wisenhunt's first season, playing injured and battling through that through much of the year, despite the lack of results on the field, but trying to sort of set the tempo for what is expected from guys on this team moving forward. So we'll have John sit down with Michael Griffin, perhaps some Conference USA Media Days stuff as well. But we want to hear from you tonight. 737-7767 is the number. And there's some things going on. Obviously, you got training camps underway. Both the Steelers and Vikings are already in because they play the Hall of Fame game a week from Sunday night in Canton, Ohio. Storylines with both of those teams. The Steelers normally known for their defense, known a little bit more for their offense now. Antonio Brown, Le'Veon Bell, Big Ben on offense. Such a great trio last year. They expect to do even bigger things this year in Pittsburgh. And then you've got the Vikings and Adrian Peterson. Big AD back after a year off away from football. And he said today, I feel refreshed. I feel ready to go, ready to get back into those things. And that should be scary for the NFC North and defenses around the NFL, because when he's right, Adrian Peterson is as good as we have seen in the running back position in the NFL. Just so explosive and so powerful and so consistent. And he says he feels good. He feels right, which should be scary to a lot of people. The Titans, of course, kick things off on Thursday at St. Thomas Sports Park. Marcus Mariota will be there. He signed his contract last week. That's great news. Justin Hunter should also be there, according to his agent and his lawyers. But there's still some real questions about Justin Hunter moving into this training camp. The NFL is now investigating on their own the complaints and the assault allegations into his activity that night in the July 3rd bar fight in Virginia Beach. So I think there's a real good shot, maybe not coming soon, but at some point that the NFL is going to weigh in on this situation for Justin Hunter and possibly come down with a suspension. Now, it may be after the legal case runs its course, so it may not be coming here immediately. But I think the NFL definitely has keen interest with what's going on in the Justin Hunter case from people I've been able to talk to, and even spoke with Greg Aiello this afternoon at the NFL to confirm that they are indeed monitoring the situation, looking at some facts about it, and making sure that they're on top of it as well whenever they do decide that they might want to bring down a punishment. And speaking of punishment, when in the world is Roger Goodell and the NFL ever going to come down with the Tom Brady ruling? Everybody's reporting to camp this week. I mean, at some point, you've got to come out and just make it happen. If you're the Patriots, you've got to know what you're dealing with here. If you're Tom Brady, you've got to want to just get on with football. If you're the NFL, you want this to be over with. And here's the thing. I have not been a big fan of how the NFL's handled a lot of stuff over the last couple years under Roger Goodell. But in this case, we're not talking about something off the field. We're talking about something that has to do with the fairness and gameplay in the NFL. Deflategate in your AFC Championship game. To me, investigation needed to be swift and thorough, and the punishment comes down immediately. And the idea that they went through this whole process and spent millions of dollars with the Wells report that they were still waiting for at the NFL draft, and then finally it comes down, and Brady and the Players Union says, we're going to take this to court, and now the NFL, I think, is trying to backtrack and make sure they've got every base covered before they come down with the appeal ruling, so they don't find themselves in a courtroom against one of their star players. It's just such a bungled mess that you really do wonder what Roger Goodell is doing. I mean, come out, make a stance, get the information, and make a hard stance right away. And, then if you appeal it down, hey, that happens in the world. But the idea that this is drug on for 7 months, 6 months, it just blows my mind when you've got a business like the NFL. We can talk about any of those things. 737-7767 is the number. One other big news item today from hockey. Could use a little ice around here, as hot and steamy as it is outside. The Predators locked up Colin Wilson today for 4 years and $15.75 million. Big move for the Preds because of what we talked about before. They want to keep the core intact. And they kept Mike Fisher around and Mike Ribeiro around. Last week it was Craig Smith. Today, Colin Wilson. Those were two big guys that they knew they were headed for arbitration with. They didn't want to get to that point. And in both cases, they were able to mediate an agreement without needing the mediator, the arbitrator. They could figure it out with the agents and get a deal done that seems to satisfy both parties. 5 years, 21 and some change for Craig Smith. 4 years, nearly $16 million for Colin Wilson. Both of those guys now locked up long term after what were breakout seasons for them last year. That's huge for this team. And I think David Poile's also structuring contracts here where he puts the Predators in a very advantageous position moving forward. So while maybe it hasn't been a huge summer in terms of splashes for the Preds, although I think Barrett Jackman for sure is a big-time addition to the Preds, an assistant captain on the Blues the last several years, a strong defenseman to add to an already strong defensive core, that's big. But the idea that they can keep that core together and position themselves when it comes to contracts to make some moves down the road, I think very nice job to David Poile, and Predators fans should be very happy with how things are going so far. By the way, Hot Shots Hot Chicken and Bourbon Festival over at Bridgestone Arena, sponsored by the Predators this weekend. I will be over there to taste some of those as a celebrity judge. You can still get tickets. Just check it out on Predators.com. Some of those other things. Come say hi on Saturday before you head on out to Titans training camp, which I will be there as well. But good cause. Fun afternoon, opportunity to go in and do some of that stuff over at Bridgestone Arena. Try some good hot chicken and try some bourbon as well. 737-7767 is the number. Let's get to some phone calls now, and we begin with Jay. Jay, good evening. You're first up tonight on SportsLine.
Hey, Steve. How you doing tonight?
Doing well. How are you?
First of all, you better take some milk with you if you're going to eat that hot chicken. I'm telling you.
I know. I'm going to have, I don't know, cornbread or something sitting by.
Absolutely. Hey, I got a question. I know I've watched a special on the new Florida coach, McElwain, I believe that's his name.
Yeah,
I know he
Jim
comes
McElwain
from the Saban regime, but he looks like he's going to get things done there. I think that's a great hire. And I know you dealt with, some of the Oklahoma teams, et cetera, but who do you like in the Big 12 this year in football? And I'll hang up and listen. Thanks.
All right, Jay, we appreciate the call. First off, I like Jim McElwain a lot. I'm going to be very curious to see what he does at Florida, because when you talk to people 3 years ago or 4 years ago, everybody loved Will Muschamp. And he was the hometown guy coming back to Florida, and he just couldn't get it done. Now, he was a defensive coach. McElwain's more of an offensive guy. I think that's going to make a difference. And I do think, for the lack of success on the field, Muschamp got that program going back in the right direction. There were a lot of off-the-field issues when Urban Meyer was done. He cleaned a lot of that up and started to recruit better. So I think, in a weird way, McElwain inherits a better situation than what Muschamp did when he came in. But still, that's going to be interesting to see how quickly he can turn that around. And the other thing about it, when you're talking about Florida, success is measured by national championships at this point, after Spurrier and after Urban Meyer. So after the last couple of years, you would think success would be, hey, if Florida can get back to 9 or 10 wins. That's not how it goes down there. You're trying to win the SEC. You're trying to battle for a national championship, playoff burst now every year at Florida. Can Jim McElwain get Florida back to that status? That'll be very interesting to see. As far as the Big 10 or Big 12 goes, I think it will be very interesting this year. I think TCU, to me, is a clear favorite going into the year. Trevon Boykin is a Heisman contender, maybe the Heisman front runner in a lot of ways going into the season. Him and Ezekiel Elliott at Ohio State would be two guys I would certainly watch out for starting the year off. But he is a terrific, prolific passer for TCU. They've got a bunch of guys back on that offense, some holes to fill on defense, but that's what Gary Patterson does, is build defenses. I think this is going to be a really good football team. They're motivated from last year, getting snubbed. We all saw what they did to Ole Miss in the Chick-fil-A Bowl or Peach Bowl or whatever they call it now down in Atlanta last year at the end of the year. This is a team that's going to be really good and have the opportunity to prove itself throughout the year. I think Baylor's still going to be good, but there's some question marks to me about what they have to replace, namely Bryce Petty at quarterback. And I know this won't be trendy by any means, but I expect Oklahoma to have a bounce-back year this year. Now, I'm not saying they can battle for the national championship or a playoff berth, but a couple things. One, they were decimated by injuries the last 6 weeks of last year. You know, they lost Sterling Shepard. They lost a bunch of guys on that defense. Zach Stryker was hurt in a lot of time there, or Eric Stryker, excuse me. Zach Sanchez was hurt a ton last year. So you had some issues last year, Oklahoma injury-wise, just being healthy, that they were unable to overcome. Provided they're healthy this year, they're going to be better. And the other thing is, Bob Stoops has done some of his best work historically in Norman when they're not projected to do anything. And nobody thinks this Oklahoma team is going to be very good. You know, the projections are sort of the 15 to 20 range in the country. Everybody has them behind TCU and Baylor in the Big 12. Remember a couple years ago in the Sugar Bowl against Alabama, nobody gave them the chance. That is the only time I have ever seen an Oklahoma team go into a bowl game in which truly no one gave them a chance. I mean, America thought like 15% of the country was behind Oklahoma and thought they had a chance in that game. And what do? They go out and beat Alabama. This is the type of situation where they perform up. And I think Oklahoma will be better this year. They get TCU at home. Of course, Texas neutral site. Some opportunities there to get some big games. Obviously, the big one against Tennessee in week 2 as well. That'll be a big tone setter for both teams. For Oklahoma to get back on track with a win on the road in SEC country, and for Tennessee to truly say, hey, we've arrived. Last year we couldn't hang with these guys, but now we can. It's a big, big game on Rocky Top there to start the season. All right, we got to take a break here, running behind because I keep talking. 737-7767 is the number. Back with more of your phone calls. Michael Griffin straight ahead as well. Stay tuned. You're watching SportsLine on News Channel 5+.